Hello and welcome to Steam Pilot PD. Today is today's Tuesday, May 26th, and we're going to talk about transferring data today. As we're winding down the year and getting closer and closer to graduation date, I know we're getting that stuff scheduled for our students and how that's going to work for them. One of the things that's come up as a common question is, how do I transfer my data, my information from my school account to my own personal account? So we're going to go through that process, what that looks like, how do you move things back and forth, and how do you take it, basically to take it with you. It's worth noting that if you are a senior graduating into R219, we won't touch your account for the summer, basically for a couple months, as far as, meaning we won't, close it down. And even at that point, when we do, we will suspend it. So let's say by August, and I don't have exact date, but let's say by August, we'll suspend the account so that students wouldn't be able to get into it. But if they ever needed to come back later, be able to open it up again, we would have that option. And the reason why is pretty much every year we have students who go off to college. We get emails back, 6 months later, hey, Mr. Kelly, I forgot this document that I wanted in my account. What can I do to go get it? That kind of thing. So we're able to basically unsuspend it for the day, let them get the documents they need to, and then suspend it again. The reason why we don't leave, students to have their account unsuspended forever is that once they've graduated and moved on, we really don't want, adults, basically, 18-year-olds and plus in the same domain as students, as high school students. So we wouldn't want kids, being able to kind of jump back and communicate with them in the side of the domain. It just wouldn't make sense. So like I said, we usually give a couple months for that process to happen. When we suspend the accounts, and then that's pretty much it, and we archive them. So we're going to go through that process of what it would look like to transfer your information from your school account into your own personal account. We're also going to answer a couple of questions. One that I want to take off right up the top is one that's just come up recently, the last couple of days. There was an update to the grid view extension in Google Meet. So if you're using Google Meet and you use a grid view, and it looks different, it looks like it's layered this way, there's an update. I'm going to show you that process. So the first thing I'm going to do is present now. Okay, there's our screen. I'm going to switch over here. So in this view right now, let me unpin that. If I click this grid right here, this extension, and if you guys don't have the extension, we'll add that to the show notes. But you'll notice here it does it vertical. It doesn't do it in the grid view like it was doing before. One option I have, if I want to see a different view of this, in the lower right-hand corner, there's 3 dots right here. I can change layout right here. Now, what do these different layouts do? The sidebar is the standard one, and that's where we have one bigger image and then side images over on the right side here, and that's pretty the typical one. Spotlight means whoever is speaking will take the full screen, and that's usually probably what you normally do. If you had a conversation, say you have a class discussion or that kind of thing where you want to have different people, interact with each other and speak to each other, if you use the spotlight mode, that's what it will do, and that means is that whoever's speaking will kind of pop up and take over the screen. This is the tiled version, and tile, just like it sounds like, will go through and it will kind of do the tiling that we talked about before. Now, the difference with tiling is it does have a limit. There's a 3x4 grid, and so if you have more people than that have joined, it won't work. And so we've had this extension. Let me just turn this off, back to Spotlight here for a second. So we've had this extension right here that was working fine, and just so there was an update, and this is what happens with extensions sometimes. It's just an individual who's creating these. So if you go down to the bottom of this, it'll say, please install Chris Grammel's official release by clicking here. So this is the new version of it. So if I click on that, click right at the top, Chrome extension right here at the top, click on that. And this is the new version. It's the same thing, basically, just has been updated. So if I jump back to my Meet, and you'll notice here, it goes up here in the Google Chrome browser up top. So if I click on that, enable grid view, and now I will have everybody in here. Now, again, it's a little bit different here because I'm using screenshot of different people, so it's going to look a little different. But this is where you're going to get your grid view, just like you had before. Same idea. There are some advanced settings here. I wouldn't worry about it unless you have a need to. Usually the default is fine. So that is just something I wanted to share just because I know people are asking about it. And that came up as a question. And so you're not being hacked. It's not an error. It's just a matter of, they did an update. All right, let's talk about transferring data. Now, as we know, if we start looking in our Google Drive, we start seeing tons and tons and tons of things that we can, we have all our data stored, especially through school, like all of our work, all of our information, our emails, all these different types of things. So Google gives a couple different ways to transfer your data, in two different main ways. And depending on what you're trying to do, it depends on what you want, the way you want to do it. So step number one option, and I'm actually going to use a different account. I'm going to use my dummy account here, this generic account that I came up with, just because it has a lot fewer things in it. And so just realize if you do transfer all your information, it's not going to happen in 2 seconds. It's going to take a while to either download it or to be able to transfer it from one account to another. So if I go to takeout.google.com, okay. Now, if you are in a different district, if this doesn't come up, it gives you an error. It does have to be enabled by your administrator. Ours is enabled here, but if it doesn't come up or gives you an error, that's why. But Google Takeout, just like it sounds like, is all the different stuff that you have, all the data you have with your account, you can make a backup of it. You can make a downloaded backup of it. So I can scroll down to the very, very bottom. And notice how everything here is checked to include. So I scroll down to the very, very bottom. And let's say I want to do everything. Now, I'm not going to download everything right now just because I want to show you how that works. I'm going to scroll back up here. I'm going to unselect all of it. And I'm just going to download my stuff from my Google Drive. So I scroll down, find Drive, because that's probably where most of the stuff that you want. I have Fusion tables on here and my Google Fit, which I haven't even used, help communities, input tools, all these other kind of information. This is all your stuff, but most likely you're going to want the one that is Google Drive, which has most of your stuff you've been creating or working with. So here it is right here. I can choose what format it downloads. So for example, if it's a document, a Google Doc, do I want to download as a Word document or a PDF? Is it a drawing? Do I want it as an image? Forms, do I want it as an Excel file? Presentation, do I want it as a PowerPoint or a PDF? Again, you can choose those depending on what your needs are. I'm just going to leave them as defaults. Okay. I can also choose right here, when I click all drive data deleted, do I want everything to be downloaded or just want certain things? So if I wanted to download one folder for some reason, have a copy of it, that's what I would do. So I'm going to unselect everything. And let's just choose one folder right here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this right now is because I only have a couple documents in there, and I want to show you how this works. So if I did all my files, it's going to take a long time. This might be the type of thing, if you're doing this for yourself as a backup, you might do it overnight or something like that. Let it take the time to download everything. So I'm just going to do one folder here. Click OK. Okay, go down the bottom. Next step. Okay, choose type. So if you wanted to make every couple months make an automatic download, it just does it by itself, you could do that. You could schedule it so every whatever you want. In this case, we're going to do it once right now. We're going to do this export right now this time. What type of file? Probably you're going to use a zip file. These are two different compression algorithms, but I would probably use a zip. What that does is it takes all these different files and it puts it together as a single file. Now you can break those apart again, meaning that once they're downloaded, you can, break them apart and upload them as you need. But if you think about it, that's a lot easier than trying to have like 1,000 different files individually. It's one big one with all of them together. Exports larger than this size, we split into multiple files. How big is it? 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, that kind of thing. Obviously, the larger the file, the harder it is to manipulate. Meaning if I have let's say I have a 2 gigabyte file, if I want to drag that over to my thumb drive and take it with me, it's just going to take longer. If I have a 50 gigabyte file, it's going to take a lot longer. So depending on your needs, how much work you have, that's why it may be worth your time to go through and look in the actual folders that you want. So you don't necessarily download everything. You come into here under Drive and choose which folders make the most sense. Oh yeah, I want my classroom stuff and I want my videos or whatever. You can kind of pick and choose which things you think are most useful to you. So I've selected, I'm going to say 2 gigs is the height it can be, create export. Now this is going to take a little while. Right here, Google is creating a copy of files from the drive. Now I purposely chose this account. I think it's only like 3 or 4 files in there, so it shouldn't take too super long. But this is the type of thing that I would just click to do overnight and let it run and let it do its thing. While that's downloading, while that's compressing, again, it's taking all these files you have in there, all the documents, all the slideshows, everything, and it's putting it all together right here as a single file. So this file was very small, 1.4 megabytes. That's, again, why I did that. Created at what time. It's available. So it's not available forever. It gives you a certain amount of time when you can download it. Here's the download. Now, if you are downloading your copy onto your school Chromebook, you're going to want to make a copy somewhere else, right? Because eventually that school Chromebook is going to go back. So you want to have either your own thumb drive or thumb drives you can get very, very inexpensively now. Again, these are not very big. Just have your own copy, your own backup. I'm going to click download here, and that is going to go, in this case, we're going to sign in here. Sign in again. I'll click download, and here it is. Okay, now it's a little bit different. I'm on a PC, which is a little bit different. I'm going to show this folder. This would be the same type of thing. If I double click on it, it's going to show me the files. So I had a folder called Takeout, and here are the files inside of it. Here's the drive. Here's the work. Here are the documents that I had inside that folder. Again, if you have a compressed file, a zip file, okay, if I want to take all the stuff out of it, I'm going to have to uncompress it. I mean, I'm going to have to go in, and I can right click on it. I'll just show you what it looks like. If I right click on this file, I can extract. Now on a PC, it says extract all. On a Chromebook, it's the same idea, just has a different word. I think it says unzip is what the terminology there. But that will take all those files and I'll bring them all, split them all up again. And again, I may not need to do that. If I just want to have them all as a backup, maybe that's all I need to do. So this one file, I can move it onto a thumb drive or whatever it is. I could come in here and say, you know what, I want this file right here. I want to copy this one, and I could do that. I could drag it somewhere else, or I could, right click and copy it, or whatever I need to do with my information. Okay, that's one type of backup. And again, I would recommend doing this anyway. Why not? When you have, some evening, just go in and say, yeah, make a backup. I'll come get it in the morning, let it download, let it have a backup, and you've got a copy of it. Just because, like I said, storage is pretty cheap now. That's not the deal breaker, is how much space it takes. So I would definitely do that just to have it. The other way to do it, okay, that was takeout.google.com. That was downloading a copy, an archive of your data. This way is called takeout.google.com/transfer. And this is transferring your information from one account to another. So step one would be to have your own personal Gmail account. Okay, to not have a school account, have your own personal Gmail account. And if you don't already have one, I would recommend setting them up. I would also recommend having one set up that is a professional version. So if you already have one, but it's got like a silly nickname or something that you wouldn't want to share to a possible employer, you're going to want a professional email. Ideally, it's like your first name and last name or something like that you wouldn't mind giving to a possible college interview or a job interview, and you wouldn't be embarrassed by the name of your email address. I've seen that before where we've had people, sign up for work, and they have, perfectly good resumes, except for their email address is really something either, silly or offensive even. And those really make reflect upon you as a student, right? So we want to make sure that you are, choosing a good email, a good Gmail that you can have to use for a professional setting. To transfer your content, so you have your Gmail set up and you have a school account, you're going to go to takeout.google.com/transfer. Here it is. This will walk you through. You're going to put your destination email account. So if I'm going to put in, for example, kernkelly@gmail.com. So that's my Gmail account. And then I'm going to send a code. The reason why it does that is it has to prove that you actually are the owner of that account. You wouldn't want to be able to transfer information from one account to somebody else's you don't even know. So I'll send a code, like a 5-digit number. You'll just come back here, click send code. I'll come back here and I'll type in that number. And I'll click verify. Once I do that, I will select the content. That's going to look the same thing. Oops. Go here again. It's going to look the same thing as this. What that means is that it's going to have, all these same kind of choices. If you have a reason to unselect something, otherwise I would just leave it all there. I would just let it all, unless you have a reason not to, I would just transfer everything over. Once I've done that, once I've chosen that, I'll come in here, I'll click next, and it will take the time. Again, this won't be instantaneously, but it will transfer everything from your school account into your personal account. Now, not only does it transfer, it also transfers ownership, and that's really important. That means that it's not going to be still owned by the school account. It's going to have it as if the new account created it initially. The only things that won't get transferred, if you have information in a shared drive. Now, if you're a student, you probably don't. If you're a school, if you're a staff member, you may have stuff, work that we've done, curriculum steering committee or for the tech department, whatever, have some data that we put in or documents in a shared drive. Those will not get transferred because those aren't technically yours. You can see them, but you're not the owner of those. Those are just some that you're viewing. And once you're done, you should be good to go. All your stuff should be transferred over. You have it in a new account. There could be a space issue. But most likely you're fine. And what I mean by that is in your school account, there's unlimited storage. I mean, it's basically, you can have how many gigs you need. In your personal account, the last time I checked it, it was up to 25 gigs. So if you need to check your storage, Let me open up Drive. I'm going to go up to my Google Drive here. In the lower left-hand corner right here, it says storage, 10.9 megabytes, so practically nothing in this one. But if you're reaching the limit, it will give you an option in your own personal Gmail account. You'll give you an option to be able to, if you want to buy more or if you want to delete things. If you do want to buy more, it's not super expensive. Like I said, I actually pay $1 a month for 200 gigabytes, which is quite a bit, right? So if you want to do it as an option, that's the way to go. If not, then that's fine too. You can just let stuff, you can choose which things you want to transfer over. So maybe not everything gets transferred over, just the things you're most concerned about. So I want to make sure I got this out this week because I know that there are students right now. We have our seniors that are graduating. Let me jump back here. Well, regardless, I'm just going to keep going. Just I'll finish with this. The reason I wanted to make sure I got this out this week is that I know seniors are going to kind of starting to wrap up. A couple questions that's come up with that. We will be collecting senior laptops if they have devices and 8th grade laptops if they have devices because they're going to be transferring next year. Obviously, the seniors will not have devices anymore, and the 8th graders will be receiving new devices. So for this summer, if you have students, if they are a freshman, sophomore, or junior, they'll be able to keep their devices. If they are a senior or a 8th grader, they need to return them. That also works for, there we go. That also works for 7th graders as well. 7th graders will be able to keep their devices over the summer if they need to. All hotspots will need to come back. If anybody has a hotspot or a tablet they're using as a hotspot, those will need to be collected. Any school that they want to drop them off at, if they want to drop them off at Somerset or at the high school, the middle school, whatever, it's fine. Well, the tech department can collect them and kind of organize them from there and make sure they're tagged. The other question that came up is staff. If you have a laptop or a device over the summer, you will be able to keep it and use it. I know some ed techs were asking specifically, they had some Chromebooks, but they will be able to use those if they would like to. Keep them over the summer. So let me check real quickly to see if there's any questions. Cool. All right. So today we talked about doing backup and takeout. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Google search, kind of a more broad Google search topic as far as not just, standard Google search, but other more unique specific searches like under books or Scholar or images or all that kind of stuff. We're going to do a deep dive into Google search. And then Thursday, we'll be talking about the future of distance learning, what it's going to look like going forward, not only for this, wrapping up this year, but let's say next year, some possibilities, some things that might be preparing ourselves for. So we will not have an episode on Friday. Next week, it looks like as of right now, will be the last week as far as formally. We'll do one each day. And then over the summer, I've been asked a couple times by different people. I will probably be running one day a week. I won't be doing it every day, but I'll probably still run one day a week just to keep people updated if they want to, if they want to check in. And we'll be doing the same process where we'll have a single day. I haven't decided which day yet and which time, probably the same time. But we'll just do a single day where we'll get on, do a video call. Anybody who has questions over the summer, if they're starting to build things or stuff come up, we'll be able to work together on it. So that is the plan for this week and for weeks to come. I hope everybody has a fantastic day and get outside. It's absolutely beautiful out. So it's finally, seems like it's turned the corner and spring has arrived. So thank you guys all for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.